overturned, and Obamacare's own internal memo showed 80% of all small businesses would lose their Obamacare while he was lying to you and committing fraud and saying you can keep your insurance if you like it. Our next guest is a guy that I really am a fan of, Larry Pratt. He's the director of the Gun Owners of America, GOA, and over the years I've been a huge fan of GOA and everything you do. Thank you for fighting for all of us. You're a real patriot. Larry, welcome to the Rusty Humphrey Show. I'm Wayne Allen Root.
Wayne, thank you so much for having me. It's very nice of you to give some credit like that to Gun Owners of America. We are privileged to represent the folks that support us.
Yeah, well, over the years, I've been a member, by the way. I've been a member of Gun Owners of America, of NRA, and also of, I believe it's called Jews for the Preservation of Firearms. I'm a Jewish guy who is a big fan of guns and believes that, you know, the story hasn't been told correctly. If you speak to a liberal, they'll tell you that guns kill, guns are scary. And if you speak to me, Wayne Root, who happens to be of Jewish descent, I would tell you that in 1938, before the Jews were herded into camps and murdered and killed and raped and enslaved, first thing that Hitler had to do was pass a law that said Jews could not own a firearm. The ban on firearms for Jews is what led to Jews being left defenseless at the hands of Adolf Hitler. And so I think it's imperative to get that message out, that for everybody out there, you know, who thinks guns are dangerous, you should understand what's dangerous is government, and that guns are your defense against government.
There's a movie, The Battle of Athens, that was made, I believe, in 1947, and it depicts a bunch of corrupt guys that have been running Athens, Tennessee. This actually happened for years and years, and when veterans returned from World War II, are obviously proficient with firearms and nearly universal ownership in that part of the state, they decided enough is enough. We saw them steal the ballot boxes. They're inside the police station right now fixing the election. So shortly after that, a whole convoy of pickup trucks and maybe some other farm vehicles came rolling into town at night. They surrounded the cops and the cop shop. A gun battle broke out. Bullets were ricocheting all around inside the cop shop, and they quickly realized that this wasn't likely to end well. So out went the white flag. They surrendered, had an honest election. They were all thrown out.
They were surrendered to the people is what you're trying to say, right?
Absolutely. The people, the armed people, did exactly what the Second Amendment is all about, to go after tyrannical government and keep it in check. And that's what happened in the Battle of Athens. So if we don't have to even point all the way back to the 18th century when our country was born by the force of arms, it happened in just within my lifetime.
Well, hey, Larry, it's important to point out to people that this country was also born in a protest against a tiny little tea tax. And today we willingly pay, like serfs and slaves, monstrous taxes, the highest taxes in history. You know, Obama loves to say these are the lowest taxes in history. Well, the reality is there's an organization out there that keeps a tax clock or tax calendar, whatever they call it. It shows you the date at which your taxes are paid on average. And in a high-tax state like New York or California, literally taxes are paid now at the latest point in May that in the history of America. So to say that taxes are the lowest in history, the reality is that's another liberal lie and fraud and illusion. They are, in fact, the highest in history when you combine federal income taxes and Social Security taxes and Medicare taxes with state income taxes and property taxes and sales taxes and hundreds of fees that are disguised as fees, but in reality are taxes. We are paying the most money we've ever paid out of the dollars we make. So do you ever get the impression that we're being fed a lot of hogwash?
Oh, yeah. And there's something that I don't think our friendly gun grabbers would like us to realize, but in addition to the taxes, which was indeed a provocation for the War of Independence, there was also an embargo on the importation of ball and powder into the colonies. That's how we developed our own firearms industry. And when the colonists saw that they want us disarmed, that's when they really started jumping. In fact, the Battle of Concord, Lexington and Concord, was fought over two objectives that the Brits had. One was to grab Jonas Clark, the preacher in Lexington, and a couple of his visitors, and the other was to go grab that in mind today because that's the way America was born and how we've managed to keep bad guys at bay. And, if they keep pushing, they might see what the Second Amendment's all about with their own eyes.
Well, let's hope and pray that never happens, number one. And number two, I don't know if it can happen, Larry, because you've got a government that has bought, almost 2 billion hollow point bullets, more than all the bullets used up in the Iraq War and the Afghanistan War combined, if they were fought for 30 years or longer. What is our government doing with those bullets?
It's not the kind of stuff you use for target practice. I can see them buying a lot of ammunition for that, although the best solution to them making such an impact on our market for ammunition is to get rid of all these federal cops that have no constitutional authority. That's, I think, where we've allowed things to get out of line, and it's time to get some Republicans in the Congress that have the guts to start defunding. Get rid of the Department of Homeland Insecurity. Get rid of the Bureau of Alcohol, Tobacco, and Firearms. Get rid of, we could go right down the list of alphabet agencies. Nowhere are to be found in the Constitution.
Well, if you're just tuning in, by the way, this is the Rusty Humphrey Show on Talk Radio Network. I'm Wayne Allen Root. This is War, as I like to say, and I'm on the line with Larry Pratt, the director of Gun Owners of America, a wonderful organization. By the way, Larry, give us a website where people can find out more about Gun Owners of America.
Go to gunowners.org, and if you make that visit, I hope, if you do nothing else, you'll sign up for our email alerts. They'll keep you posted on what's happening in Washington, and we'll embed an email in the alert so that you can fire it off to your member of Congress. And those kinds of communications have proven to be very useful. It's one of the main reasons that we won the battle in April against the Toomey Manchin gun control bill. And interestingly, not only were we working on members of Congress, but the NRA hadn't taken a public position. Turned out they were actually supporting it. 2 weeks before the vote, we sent out an email saying that if and only if you are an NRA member, then please call this guy at this number at the NRA and urge him to get the NRA to come out publicly against the bill. A week later, they did. And then a week after that, we won.
But first, they were actually supporting the bill, Larry?
That is what Senator Manchin said. Now, I admit I'm quoting a politician, and the veracity of the senator may not be any greater than his campaign promise to oppose gun control, which he did in a really great ad. He hung a copy of, I think it was Obamacare, on a rope to a tree, and got one of his rifles, and he plugged it. And this is what I'm going to do gun control when I go to Washington. And then he turns around with a Republican, Benedict Arnold, Pat Toomey of Pennsylvania, and pushes this extension of the background check, which is nothing more than the government's means of getting a list of everybody that buys a gun. They're not supposed to, but then they weren't supposed to be eavesdropping with NSA. They weren't supposed to be playing favorites with IRS. I think it's a lot easier for people to understand now, after all these scandals of this president, that no, we really don't want private information in the hands of these crooks. And it's just an amazing thing that for so long people have accepted the idea that, well, you don't want guns getting into the wrong hands, do you? Guns are in the hands of the wrong hands. They're in the hands of 100,000 agents at Homeland Insecurity that shouldn't have a gun at all, that shouldn't even have a job there.
Well, they're in the hands of millions of criminals, and you need to defend yourself. They aren't going away. Hey, Larry, we're going to an ad break. We're keeping you on. We'll have you for the next segment, so stay right there. Don't go away. Larry Pratt, Director of Gun Owners of America, and we'll talk about gun-free zones. We'll talk about Obamacare and how it affects gun owners, and we'll talk about Prozac and returning vets and what the government's doing to them as well. This is Wayne Allen Root on the Rusty Humphrey Show. This is War. We'll be right back.
Taking a stand for our nation's future. This is the Rusty Humphrey Show.
Obamacare, that disaster befalling America, and the gun owners of America. What's the connection? What do guns have to do with Obamacare?
One of the many problems with that bill, which I think is better known as zero care, is everybody is finding out as every day goes by.
Or the Unaffordable Care Act. I think that's another one that I think fits it pretty well.
But the invasion of privacy, the assumption that we're a bunch of cattle to have an RFID chip put in our ear, underlies the computerization of all of our medical records so that they can be accessible by any drone in a bureaucracy in Washington. And what they're going to be doing, they already got started under Bush with what we call the Veterans Disarmament Act. Soldier came back with PTSD, they used that as an excuse to take away his guns. And some of our members experienced that. That some 165,000 Americans just under that law focused on veterans have already lost their right to keep and bear arms and their guns.
So wait, I gotta get on this topic for a minute. I know we're getting off Obamacare. Just for a second, I gotta get on it. I have a friend who told me you've got to speak to a mother that I'm friends with whose son is in the military, and they're telling him that for him to get his discharge papers, he's got to sign something that says he can never have a gun because he's been treated for PTSD, right? PTSD, excuse me, got the word. So that is really happening right now in America.
It is really happening, and the idea that you can be deprived of one of your basic protected liberties based on something as one shrink's opinion. It's not something that is alleged to be dangerous, certainly not PTSD. I've known people that had it. They probably woke up in the middle of the night with, funny thoughts in their head, but they more often than not were afraid, and it took them a while to get to their senses, but they weren't dangerous. And so, unless somebody has been taken to a court of law and adjudicated a danger to self or others, we have no business violating their Second Amendment liberty. And that's what Obamacare is going to do on steroids.
Right, on steroids. And let me get back to the troops again. So what right, we were running out of time. Can you believe this? We need to extend the time with Larry and extend the 3 hours of Wayne. Hey, Larry, let's tell everyone again. It's a public service thing. How do you find gun owners of America? Tell everyone how to find it.
We're on the web at gunowners.org, and go to the Take Action tab on the top toolbar. You can sign up for free for our alerts, and it'll give you the tools. We'll embed email in those alerts that you can fire off to your member of Congress, and it does help keep them honest.
All right, Larry Pratt, Director, Gun Owners of America. Love you, Larry. Thank you for all you do.